Alright guys, so remember that your standard is RI.7. I can interpret information visually, orally, and quantitatively, and you can explain how this information helps you understand the text. So I'm going to look at this passage. I've already read the passage, so I'm not going to waste the time of reading it to you and making this video super long. But when you get your assignment, you're going to read your passage. The first day, you are going to do questions 1 through 3, and the second day, you'll do the rest of the questions just like I am. So remember, we have text features. So we have this calendar, which you see this is a visual. We have this diagram, which is a visual. We have this diagram, which is also visual, and this graph. So you're seeing all of this information visually. So what is the purpose of the calendar on page 1? Describe one thing you learned from this calendar that you did not learn from the text. So we're going to get our red highlighter out. So here we go. I got my red. So we're going to go back to that calendar. What's the purpose of the calendar and one thing you learned from the calendar, not from the text? So my text tells me about the phases of the moon. So this calendar tells me May moons 2005. Okay, so I'm going to highlight that red. So we see that on May 15th of 2005, that was the moon, May 26th, and all the different types of moons. So what's the purpose of that calendar? So the purpose of this calendar was to show you what the moons were each day in May of 2005. So I'm going to take my text, I'm going to put that there. So we're going to restate our question. The purpose of the calendar on page 1 was to show us the different moon phases in May of 2005. That's what the calendar said. That's what the calendar did. One thing I learned from this calendar that I did not learn from the text. I learned from the calendar what moon phase was on each day of the month in May. I could not get this visual information without having the calendar in the text. You cannot see a picture by just reading a text. So here you have your answer. Remember, you have to answer the question and underline the text evidence. So in red, the purpose of the calendar, I highlighted May moons 2005. Okay, I also went back and restated my question, and I told them what I learned. So you had 2 questions you answered. What was the purpose and one thing I learned. Looking at that, I'm done. Number 2, the diagram on page 1 shows how the moon's position affects the moon phase. What information does the diagram include that is not in the text? So we have to go in the text and we have to know what is in that text. So I'm going to get my orange highlighter. So again, the diagram on page 1 is where we're going. It shows how the moon's position affects the moon's phase, and then what information is in the diagram that's not in the text. Okay, so here's my diagram. We know that the sunlight is on this side, and compared to the earth, here's new moon and all the phases. So let's look at our first answer. Earth's gravity controls the moon's rotation. I believe I remember reading that. Earth's gravity controls the moon's rotation. So that's in my text. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to switch to my pencil and I'm going to X this out because that was in the text. We are looking for information on the diagram that is not in the text. Not in the text. The half of the moon that faces the sun is always lit. Again, I think I remember seeing that. So the half of the moon that faces the sun is always lit. I'm also going to take my highlighter and highlight the text evidence of what I'm seeing to X out, so that I remember, hey, I saw that. So the half of the moon that faces the sun is always lit was there. So I'm going to go back, get my pencil. I'm going to X that out because it was in the text. Most of the same side of the moon always faces Earth. Most of the same side of the moon always faces Earth. Oh, I see it right here in my text. Most of the same side of the moon always faces Earth. So again, I'm going to go back to my question and I'm going to exit that one out because it is in the text. The diagram shows 8 moon phases while the text only mentions 4. Okay, I'm going to go back. And right here, I see, get my orange highlighter, the main 4 moon phases are new moon, first quarter, full moon, and third quarter. So they're telling me that there's 4 main moon phases. This diagram shows me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So is that correct? It is. So I am going to circle that answer. And then the side that faces Earth appears different from Earth depending on the position of the moon in its orbit. And then again, we see that right here. So that is in the text. So we know we can go back and make sure that we X'd that out. All right, so not only did I find my answer, but I also highlighted and found my text evidence. You have to answer, underline in the color that it says. If you do not, you will not get the best grade you possibly could. And number 3, what is the timeline on page 2 showing? So I need to go yellow. What is the timeline on page 2 showing? Again, remember here, choose all that apply. That means there can be more than one answer. Okay, so we're going to the timeline on page 2. How long the moon phases last? Week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. So this shows me that week 1 starts about half a week. You get here. So that's a week. So yes, we're going to go back to number 3. How long the moon phases last is an appropriate answer, and it does show it, so you're going to circle that. Remember, we're circling all that apply, so it can be more than one. What the 4 main moon phases look like. So we have a new moon, a quarter moon, a full moon, and a 3/4 moon, and that shows what they look like. So yep, we're going to go back here. I do see what they look like. The percentage of the moon showing during each phase. So back to page 2, the percentage. Do you see a percentage anywhere? I do not. So I am going to X that out. And how the moon phases change over the span of 5 weeks. So I see week 1, week 2. Get my highlighter again. Week 1, week 2. And I forgot to highlight the moons, so I need to make sure that I did that. Week 3, week 4, and week 5. So going back over here, yes, it did tell me how the moon phases change over the span of those 5 weeks. So 3 of those answers were all right. And again, choose all that apply means you can have more than one. So one more time, your instructions. You will do the first questions about your passage. So your first instruction is to read the passage. Your second instruction is answer the questions. Your third, underline the text evidence in the color that this crown is right here. So we had red, we had orange, and we had yellow. When I go in your passage, I should see all these colors. Okay, you can do this on the text evidence. You guys got it.